Imagine this. A 31-year-old man in 1870 controlled just 4% of America's oil refining capacity. That man's name was John D. Rockefeller, and no one could have predicted what he was about to achieve. 10 years later, in 1880, he controlled 90% of America's oil refining capacity. And by 1904, just 34 years later, 91% of oil production and 85% of final sales were under his control. But the issue was never just oil. The real issue was that Rockefeller had built his own system. And that system would still be shaping your life 150 years later. At the time, the American oil industry was pure chaos. In 1859, oil was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania. The oil business was like the Wild West. Thousands of people rushed in to drill. Fortunes were made overnight and just as quickly lost. Oil prices changed daily. Overproduction collapsed prices. Shortages sent them soaring. For investors, it was a game of chance, unpredictable and brutal. Rockefeller saw this chaos and turned it into opportunity. He didn't focus on drilling because drilling was luck-based and extremely risky. Instead, he chose what he could control: refining. In 1863, at just 24 years old, Rockefeller invested $4,000 in his first refinery in Cleveland. Within 2 years, it became the largest refinery in the city. But Cleveland had 30 refineries, and competition was ruthless. Rivals undercut each other's prices and operated at constant losses. This is where Rockefeller's genius emerged. Instead of trying to compete, he set out to eliminate competition entirely. This wasn't just a strategy. It was an economic masterpiece. Rockefeller's first major move was vertical integration. He didn't stop at refining. He took control of barrel manufacturing, railroad transportation, storage facilities, and distribution networks. He brought every step in-house. While competitors paid 25 cents per barrel, Rockefeller produced them for 15 cents. He slashed transportation costs. This wasn't just cheaper production, it was economic suffocation. And this same method is still used today. Amazon's logistics network, Apple's supply chain, Walmart's distribution systems, all are modern versions of Rockefeller's vertical integration logic. Vertical integration didn't just reduce costs. It created a power center for price wars. While competitors operated with higher costs, Rockefeller could shape the market however he wanted. This isn't just true for oil. It's a timeless rule of business. Whoever controls costs controls the market. In 1872 came the most dramatic example of Rockefeller's horizontal consolidation strategy: the Cleveland Massacre. Rockefeller personally visited the city's refiners. His message was simple: sell or be driven into bankruptcy. They sold or they failed. In just 3 months, his market share jumped from 4% to 25%. The strategy was simple and deadly: buy the competitor, crush them if they refuse, then buy the remains. This method is still the foundation of modern monopolies. But Rockefeller didn't just destroy competitors. He also shaped prices. He reduced the price of kerosene from 58 cents to 8 cents. This wasn't only about increasing his wealth. It stabilized the market, reduced chaos, and increased efficiency. Rockefeller was known as both ruthless and a bringer of order. While competitors tried to understand his tactics, consumers enjoyed cheap kerosene. In 1882, Rockefeller made another revolutionary move: the Standard Oil Trust. This trust unified companies across different states under a single controlling structure. Though the companies were legally separate, all decisions were made centrally. This was the ancestor of the modern holding company. Alphabet, Meta, Berkshire Hathaway all follow this model. The trust allowed Rockefeller to stay within legal boundaries while building an enormous monopoly. Rockefeller's strategies soon reached beyond business into politics and public perception. As his empire grew, criticism intensified. He was labeled a robber baron. But Rockefeller turned this narrative to his advantage. He created foundations, invested in education and healthcare, protected his wealth, and built legitimacy. This is a strategy modern billionaires still use today. Grow wealth while managing public perception. And here's the most striking part. Rockefeller's system didn't stay confined to oil. It spread to sugar, steel, tobacco, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and technology. Amazon's logistics, Google's holding structure, Meta's control of social media, Pfizer's regulatory strategy, all of them trace back to Rockefeller's playbook. The system didn't just create efficiency, it pushed wealth upward. Even today, a handful of dominant players control entire markets using methods Rockefeller pioneered. And whether you realize it or not, you are part of this system. Rockefeller's system didn't die with him. It evolved exactly as he intended. Because the system wasn't tied to a person, but to a method. People die. Companies break apart. But methods survive. Rockefeller understood this before anyone else. Standard Oil could be broken up, but vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, trust structures, and regulatory control could not be destroyed. They became embedded in the DNA of modern capitalism. When Standard Oil was broken up in 1911, the public celebrated. Newspapers declared victory. Politicians claimed antitrust laws worked. But almost no one noticed the crucial detail. Rockefeller still owned shares in every piece. And the pieces became more valuable than the whole. Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, BP, the names you see at gas stations today. Standard Oil didn't disappear. It changed names and slowly reassembled. This is the key realization. Governments can break up companies, but they cannot break methods. Methods respond to incentives, not laws. If a system is more efficient, more profitable, and more scalable, it will be copied again and again. That is Rockefeller's true legacy. Now look at the modern world. Amazon. It started as an online bookstore. Today it controls warehouses, logistics networks, cargo planes, delivery trucks, payment systems, AI infrastructure, and AWS, which hosts much of the internet. Amazon doesn't just sell products, it controls the market itself. Competitors are forced to use its infrastructure. This is the exact same refinery railroad distribution chain Rockefeller built, just replacing oil with data and logistics. Google. The search engine is free, but that's the illusion. Google holds a 92% market share, higher than Standard Oil ever reached. Regulators hesitated for years. Why? Because users don't pay with money. They pay with data. Rockefeller eliminated competition by lowering prices. Google eliminated competition by reducing the price to zero. It's a monopoly model even Rockefeller couldn't have imagined. Now Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. They appear to be separate platforms, but they're controlled from one center. Most social interaction flows through this ecosystem. Are there alternatives? In theory, yes. In practice, no. Network effects lock everyone in. This is horizontal consolidation in its modern form. In pharmaceuticals, Rockefeller's influence runs even deeper. The Rockefeller Foundation shaped modern medical education in the early 20th century. It decided which universities received funding and which research paths were supported. Medicine became more scientific, but also centralized around a single model. Today, major pharmaceutical companies hold influence over regulatory processes. A significant portion of the FDA's budget comes from the companies it regulates. The regulator is funded by the regulated. Rockefeller's regulatory strategy is still in use. Now banking, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, all operate through complex holding structures, hundreds of subsidiaries, layered balance sheets, global operations. After the 2008 crisis, governments tried to regulate them. But which entity do you regulate? The parent? The subsidiary? Rockefeller solved this problem in 1882. Banks simply copied it. And then there's philanthropy, the most misunderstood piece. The Rockefeller Foundation made genuine contributions to education, health, and science. But it also protected wealth from taxation, controlled inheritance, and generated political influence. Today, The Gates Foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the Bezos Earth Fund. Same model. They help, yes, but they also ensure the system continues. Now stop and ask yourself, do you really have a choice? Exxon or Chevron? Amazon or Walmart? Google or Bing? Instagram or Facebook? It feels like choice, but everything exists inside the same network. Same rules, same logic. And here's the irony. The system survives not because it's evil, but because it works extremely well. Cheaper, faster, more efficient. Rockefeller reduced kerosene prices. Amazon accelerated delivery. Google made information accessible. The system gives you comfort, but in return, it destroys competition. And when competition disappears, wealth flows upward. So what can you do as an individual? You can't escape it. You can resist, but it's exhausting. Or you can understand it and position yourself accordingly. That's what Rockefeller did. He built the system and owned it. Today, wealth accumulates not outside this system, but at its core. Rockefeller died in 1937. But if he were alive today, he wouldn't be surprised. This is exactly the world he envisioned. A world where competition is seen as wasteful, consolidation as virtuous, efficiency as sacred. A system where 3 to 5 players dominate every industry. And this system is no longer an exception. It's the standard. You were born inside it. You live inside it. And you'll likely die inside it. But here's the difference. Now you see it. And seeing a system is the greatest power you can have over it. Welcome to Rockefeller's world. If this narrative gave you a new perspective, subscribe. In the next video, I'll show you how to look at the intersection of finance and history, and where you actually stand within it.